Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
She was young, newly married, and beginning the future she always dreamed of, until she disappeared. At first, it looked like another missing persons case.
The truth behind Jessica Padgett's death would unravel into something far more sinister and far closer to home than anyone expected. This is the case of Jessica Padgett.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 32 of Stop Who Does That. I'm your host, Jackie.
And I'm your host, Jenna.
And we hope everyone is having a great week. I'm due in for work in a couple hours. So, that's the theme of the week, right, Jenna?
Yeah.
But you know what? Spring has sprung here in Pennsylvania, and it was a beautiful day for a walk. So I'm just looking forward to getting the next 2 days off. How about you, Jenna?
Yeah, it's a beautiful spring day here, and over the weekend I got to spend time with my friend Janine, and we talked about a little bit about some ideas. She may have another good case for us, but we had a lot of fun this weekend, and I'm ready for the week. I'm ready to go. Spring is in the air, and it's a sunny day. That makes everything better.
It does. Although the weekend was kind of crappy.
It was.
Really cold and rainy, and I had back-to-back games. My son's baseball game, and then I had to quickly run him to soccer. So I was outside for a good couple of hours.
When the weekend gets the shitty weather, and then the work week gets the better sunny days, why does that always happen?
Well, at least I get days off during the week. That's the only good thing.
That is nice. That is nice. Because then you kind of mix it up.
Exactly.
And you don't get the Sunday scaries like I do every Sunday.
Yeah, it's pretty much any time of the week. It's scary. But yeah, I'll be at work until I get off at 1 a.m. tonight. I'll probably be home by 2 a.m. So it'll be a late night. Yeah.
Late
And just for the
night.
listeners, we're recording at noon. So I've got a long day ahead of me.
Yes. You can do it, Jackie. You can do it.
Yeah. Well, so it was just a couple weeks ago. We were at Beyond the Crime convention. We made a lot of new friends and met a lot of interesting people and families of victims. And, I got to say, we felt so inspired by a lot of these people to do more with our podcast. We've got something coming up in the next couple of weeks for you guys that we're going to need your help with. I don't want to spoil it, but
yes, we do.
Yeah, so we're gonna take things up a notch. I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, we're really excited about it, and it'll be happening in a few weeks. So we'll keep you updated, but we do need your help, and it's a very exciting project we're working on.
Absolutely. I was just checking to see if we had any new reviews to read out. But you know what? Let me just shout out these people. We haven't had a chance to do so. So Adam Remele, he's a big listener. Jenna, we know him. He says, love it, 5 stars. Listen all the time. Very interesting stuff. These ladies are amazing. Keep it up. And then we've got Todd LaRose. Todd LaRose has been with us since the beginning.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, for all of your support, really. You're one of our top fans and listeners, and we appreciate you and all of your ideas that you bring us as well.
Yeah, he says, 5 stars. I think this podcast is great. Jackie and Jenna complement each other very well as hosts and bring great true crime knowledge to the table every episode. They also incorporate humor as well as in their Florida Man or Woman series at the end of each episode. I would advocate for any true crime fan to give this podcast a listen. Highly recommend. Thank you, Todd. And you know what? I miss Florida Man or Woman. That's from Headline Highlights, which if you're new to listening to us, we did headline highlights and a deep dive every week. But then I started working, so I couldn't keep up on editing all that. So we pulled back to one a week. And if you notice, we've been doing a lot of deep dives. But I said to Jenna, I'm like, I really miss doing headline
Yeah,
highlights,
we
and
we
there's a
do.
lot going on, so we might have one coming out next week for you,
Yes,
so
we're gonna
stay
bring it
tuned
back.
for that.
I think we'll have, like, pop-up headline highlights, like,
Yeah.
pop-up ones, especially when there's a lot of cases in the news and, like, things going on, which there are. So, we are bringing you, back one upcoming. Before we get into the episode, I do wanna give a shout out to my sister, Angie, for
Angie!
recommending this case, so thank you, Angie. We lived through this case at the time, Jackie. It's from our area in Lehigh County, and Angie was like, "Remember, this case and everything that
Oh
happened?
my
You
gosh.
guys should do this one," and I said, "You know what? You're right. Let's do it."
Even
So
Annie Elise covered it,
yeah.
so it's out there. I'm just kinda looking through. Not too many podcasts have done it, but, I mean, Annie Elise is pretty big, and for her to do
Yeah.
it, it's one of those things that make you go, "Stop, who does this?" So,
Especially this one.
alright, let's dive
Yeah.
in, and dive in we shall. Alright. Jessica Padgett was 33 years old and building a life she was excited about. She was newly married and surrounded by people who loved her. But then, without warning, she vanished. And the people closest to her knew right away this was not normal. Jessica wouldn't just disappear. She wouldn't leave her new husband and children behind. As police started digging into her last known moments, the truth began to unfold. And what they discovered would turn this case into something far more disturbing than anyone had expected. This is the case of Jessica Padgett.
Jessica Padgett was 33 years old and had just gotten married in September 2014 in Scott Township, Pennsylvania, in what should have been one of the happiest days of her life. She married her husband, Micah Padgett, surrounded by family and friends, celebrating a fresh start and a future that they were excited to build together in Whitehall, Pennsylvania, which is located in my area of the Lehigh Valley. She was also a devoted mom to her two children from a previous relationship, and they were truly the center of her world. Anyone who knew Jessica knew that her life revolved around them. She was present, loving, and always there. She was also very close with her family and stayed in regular contact, especially with her mom and stepfather, Gregory Graff, whom her mother had been married to for 20 years. Everything about Jessica's life pointed to stability, love, and the life that she had always dreamed of, which is why when she suddenly went missing just 2 months after her wedding, it didn't make sense. There were plans, there were people who depended on her, there was this life that she had just fully stepped into, and that's what made this so alarming, Jackie, because Jessica wasn't somebody who would just disappear. Like, she just got married and they had a blended family. Everything that she had hoped and dreamed of was coming
Right.
true. And as a young
Yeah.
woman, I think we know how that feels. You're like, finally having the family of my dreams, like things are finally working out for me.
Lining up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like we talked about with Jennifer Brown, is when you're a mom, you can't just step out. You can't just, spontaneously do anything. And yeah, I would imagine there were probably children that needed to be picked up from school, dinner to get on the table. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you have going on as a busy mom that you can't
Yeah.
just walk out.
She was
So,
a working mom,
yeah.
newlywed. They're just trying to get their new married life in order. And she was probably just having the best days of her life
Exactly.
at the time, in 2014 when this was all happening.
Right. Yeah.
So she did have a job. She was a single mom before she met Micah, and she was doing it just like Jennifer Brown. She was making
Right.
it. She had a job. She was providing for her kids. Now she has Micah. She's got a family. She had a lot of responsibilities. Speaking of her employer, it was a daycare
Mhm.
in Northampton on November 21st, 2014. Jessica arrived at the daycare, her employer, Duck Duck Goose Daycare in Northampton, around 8:30 a.m., just like she did every morning. She clocked into the daycare, and as we know, Jackie, those are very busy mornings at the drop off. So she was there while all the moms and dads were dropping off their children. She's there to,
Mhm.
greet them, take the kids in. Like, what a
Right.
loving, just a very caretaking mentality. It's enough
Mhm.
to take care of your own kids, but to work in a daycare,
Exactly.
that takes a special person.
I don't know how they do it.
No,
I never do.
they're surrounded, and especially in that toddler room, that 2 to 3-year-old room, those kids are wild. They're just
Yeah.
learning how to be around others, and it's just very loud, and so that's the type of person Jessica was. She was very caring, nurturing, and she loved children. So she clocked in 8:30 a.m., November 21st, just like she always does. She gets her morning started, and she went to run an errand over her lunch break. So she told her coworkers over lunch, I'm going to run an errand and I'll be back. And she left a little before 1 p.m. that day. She was expected to be back in about 30 minutes. And Jackie, her 2-year-old son, was still at the daycare where he went with her every day.
Oh, that's nice. She got to work. Well, yeah, there were a lot of daycare workers I knew that brought their
Yeah.
kids with them because you get a nice discount and
Yeah.
you're working at the same time and you get to spend time with your kids.
So
yeah.
she left. She told her coworkers, I got to run an errand. I'll be back. And she was never seen again.
Wow.
Middle of the day, just vanished.
Wow.
Vanished in the middle of the day.
Well, so this errand Jessica had to make over her lunch was to run up to her stepfather's business called Distinctive Fencing to use the fax machine since the one at work was broken. His business was located right next to the home he shared with Jessica's mother. So think of this like it's her mom and stepdad's house, and then attached to it, there's a business side of the house. She figured, well, my mom and my stepdad's house is right around the corner. Let me just go use their fax machine. However, she never returned to work and her coworkers became concerned. I wanted to add as well that her stepfather was the only one home at the time because Jessica's mother was in Florida at this time on a vacation with her own friends. So as the afternoon turned into evening, people started to trying to reach her, calling and texting, and there was nothing, no response. I mean, think about it. You work at the daycare, right? You're working with Jessica, and she says, I need to run out. I'll be right back. She leaves her kid there. An hour goes by, 2 hours. They're all probably wondering, where is she? Like, we need coverage in the toddler room. Like,
I'm
what's
actually
going on?
thinking of my own coworkers, Jackie. If one of my own coworkers said, I'm going to run an errand, I'll be right back, and they never
Ever
ever
come
came back, I think the first thing we would do is text them, call them. And if we were getting no response, our alarm bells would be up. Like, that's weird. I don't know if we would go so far as to call the police over it.
I'd probably call a spouse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it sounds like they did because by that night, probably by closing time, she still hadn't shown up and no one had heard from her. Her husband, Micah, knew something was very wrong. This wasn't like Jessica. She wouldn't just disappear, especially not without coming back for the kids or checking in on them. So later that evening, Jessica was officially reported missing. And what started as a quick everyday errand had now turned into a missing person case. Once Jessica was reported missing, the police, they actually didn't waste time, Jenna. So in some cases, they say give it 24 hours. But in this case, the police, I think they must have known there's just too many red flags here that we need to act quickly. You know, like we mentioned, she had just gotten married. She had kids. You don't just leave your job in the middle of the day saying you're going to come back and then just never come back. So I think that all pretty much stood out to them that it wasn't a voluntary missing persons case that they always try to, say kids kids are just runaways, So police, they started canvassing the area, talking to family members and trying to piece together what exactly happened after she arrived at her mother and stepfather's house. But as the hours turned into days, the lack of evidence became even more concerning. There were no signs of struggle in public, no activity on her phone, nothing to suggest that she'd just walked away, but probably certainly enough that suggests things aren't looking so good, right? With no activity on her phone after a certain time, that doesn't bode well. And that's when investigators started to shift their focus. Because in cases like this, when someone vanishes without a trace, the answers are usually much closer than they appear. And I feel like in this case, Occam's razor might apply. The most obvious answer is the answer. And if you're going to your mother's house that she shares with your stepdad, and your stepdad's the only one home, and then you just don't show back up at work.
What's the most obvious? I do understand how the police do like to say, well, maybe she vanished of her own accord. Maybe she didn't want to be a mother anymore and she just walked away. Like that that woman that was just found in North Carolina. She just
went out grocery shopping, right?
Yeah, and said she would be right back, and she
never came back.
left her whole family and and started a new life. I think that's very rare. But
Yeah.
I do get why police have to kind of go over that because it's a possibility. Jessica may have just had a breaking point and
Mhm.
she may have just walked away from her family. But I think, like you said, police just quickly ruled that out. She was very happily married, had a good job, family, kids. As they're retracing
Yeah.
her steps, like you said, it's the last place that you were is going to
Right.
be where the police are going to kind of hone in on.
Right. And also, I was just thinking, like, how many times as a parent have we like thought to ourselves, I'm just going to get in my fucking car and never come back?
Yeah.
And how insane it is that there's actually people out there who've done that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And like get away
like
with
that
it
lady.
for 20
Yeah.
years, like that lady
Yeah.
from the South. The audacity.
I know. And then for your kids to find out you are alive and you actually chose to disappear.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, no.
My gosh. Well, she's never being forgiven at this
Yeah,
point.
never. No more Christmases with her. I'd be like, I'm good on that. Like, you just left our family, you crazy bitch.
Well, in this case, I'm sure the first thing investigators want to do is confirm that she made it back to her parents' house, because I would imagine if they're thinking, and well, maybe she just ran, you know what I mean? Like pulled what that lady did
Yeah.
and was like, oh, I'm going to go to my stepdad's house to fax something. I'll be right back. But really, maybe she was trying to run away. So I think they use CCTV, right, Jenna, to verify her movements.
Yes, they did. So the search continued. Investigators used CCTV at local businesses. Now this is 2014, so
Yep.
most
We do have it.
businesses did have it. Local businesses and gas stations, they're trying to like piece together her movements to see if it lines up with what she told her coworkers of where she was
Right.
going. They were able to get footage of her vehicle driving past a gas station headed north towards her stepfather's business, just like she told everyone at work.
Yeah.
That was what she was doing. That was the errand. And what they found on the camera lined up exactly with that. So they found footage of the vehicle driving north towards the stepfather's business, but they never found footage of the vehicle driving back south towards the daycare. So
So they can confirm she never drove back.
yeah, she never drove back to the daycare. She never drove back at all. So as they're realizing this, later into the investigation, the police made a critical discovery. They actually found Jessica's car, a white Subaru Outback, but it wasn't where it should have been. It wasn't at the stepfather's house, and it wasn't at the daycare. Her Subaru Jackie was located in a Dollar General parking lot in Carbon County, which is the neighboring county to Lehigh County. It was abandoned with no sign of Jessica anywhere. Not her, not her personal belongings. There was nothing in the vehicle that looked out of place. So right away, this is odd. Police are like, okay, this ain't looking good. Like her car was found, but she's nowhere to be found. And I'm sure they checked the trunk, but she wasn't in there either. So like she's just nowhere to be found. Because Jessica had told people she was just running a quick errand, how the hell did she end up all the way in Carbon County?
Yeah.
And why was her car left in the parking lot of this Dollar General? That's not where she said she was going. It's nowhere near where she said she was going.
So probably between having no cell phone activity and now finding this, it's not looking good.
No, it's not looking good. This is bad. This is very bad. The car was not near the daycare, not near her own home, not near the stepfather's home. It is found in a place that has absolutely no connection to her, so that's just not good. And that's when the situation took a serious turn, because finding her car without her confirmed everyone's worst fears. Jennifer hadn't just gone missing. Something had happened here. Something bad had happened, and someone had likely gone out of their way to separate her from her vehicle and distance themselves from what they may have done. Investigators continue putting the pieces together, and their attention kept coming back to one place. Jackie, what do you think that place was?
Big stepdaddy Gregory.
Gregory Graff, stepfather's house. All signs are pointing to this house. This is where she was headed.
Yeah.
Also, Jackie, it was the last place anyone could confirm where she was headed. When she was at work and said, I have to go run an errand, it wasn't very vague. She wasn't like, I'm going to go run 2 errands and I'll be back. She said, I'm running an errand to my stepfather's house. So
Right. To
everyone
fact
knew
something.
to fact
Yeah.
something.
It's
Everyone
not like
knew.
she was giving this vague, like, I have a doctor's appointment, but really she's out, like, interviewing for another job.
Exactly.
You know?
She was very
Yeah.
specific. So this is the last place that she could be confirmed to be headed, as the CCTV footage also pointed to. Naturally, the police needed to understand exactly what happened when she got to the house. So what did they do? They began speaking with good old stepfather Gregory Graff to establish a timeline. When Jessica arrived, how long did she stay? When did she leave? General questions that you would think he would have the answers to. But as they dug deeper, things were not adding up. Details started to feel very inconsistent with what Gregory was saying. The timeline was unclear. And for investigators, that's a major red flag, because in cases like this, the last person to see someone alive, like we said before, often holds the key to what really happened. And there was another problem here. There was absolutely no evidence that Jessica had ever made it back out of that house. So now investigators were faced with a very disturbing possibility. What if Jessica never left the house at all? And if that was the case, then the person responsible wasn't a stranger. It was someone she knew and trusted, someone that was a part of her own family, Mr. Graff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the cops are like you ever see those people that direct traffic with orange flags? I mean, just imagine red ones, and it's like,
Yes.
this guy, this guy.
That's what I was
this
picturing
guy.
in my head about the property.
Yeah.
Just red arrows. The police are probably like, okay, we know what happened here.
They know. Something's not what it seems. Obviously, everything is leading us to Gregory, and the cracks are starting to show as the authorities are pressing him. And then we find some physical evidence. Police found bloody sandal straps in the trash, Gregory's trash, along with blood inside the basement of the home. Evidence that pointed to something far more sinister than a simple disappearance. I think you all know what is happening here. When confronted with these inconsistencies in the mounting evidence, he finally broke down. He confessed to killing Jessica. And I actually found an article with exact quotes here. He said, quote, I shot her in the back of the head, and she's still up on the property, he said. He said he got a, quote, crazy feeling, something sexual in nature took a hold of him, and he shot Jessica in the back of the head and dragged her body to a bedroom. So after confessing, after 5 days, by the way, 5 days he strung them along, of lies and misdirection, they obtained warrants and started to search his home and business. And what followed was an intense days-long search of the property. On November 26, 2014, 5 days after Jessica was reported missing, the search came to an end, where they found Jessica's body in a shallow grave behind a shed on the family's 7-acre property. That is a huge property, Jenna. It kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, it was out north in the woods a little bit. It was a big property. They had a home plus a business, so plus a large acreage and the shed. So it was also late November, and some of the pictures of that time, we did get like an early dusting of snow. It was very cold, so very cold and snowy, covered on the shed area.
Graff stated that Jessica did in fact come to his business to use the fax machine, as she said to everyone at the daycare. And as she was sitting down using the fax, she was facing away from him. And I guess that's when he got that weird feeling that came over him. And he fatally shot her in the back of the head. But that's not all. What police found next would shock even the most seasoned detectives. On December 4th, 2015, police recovered video footage from 2 cameras inside the Graff's home. And we want to issue a trigger warning here because this is really messed up. but Jessica's murder was motivated by a sexual element, as we aforementioned, reading the direct quote from the father. Police did find from swabs on her body and the video footage from in the home that Graf practiced necrophilia with Jessica's deceased body, and he videotaped it. So, I mean, I fucking can't, right?
It's very disturbing. He basically blindsided her while her back was to him, shot her in the back of the head. She had no warning or inclination this was going to happen to her. And as soon as he killed her, he had sex with her dead body.
Yeah.
And then he filmed it.
Yeah, it says here he told police detectives that after moving the body, he drove Padgett's car away to keep police off his trail. And then he returned home and exchanged pleasantries with his fence company employees as they came and went until about 3 p.m. And then that's when he defiled her corpse for 10 minutes and videotaped it. So basically she got back there, around 1-ish, killed
Yeah.
her immediately, then drove her car away, came back, interacted with his employees, and then went and did what he did to her body.
Do you believe that? He waited a couple hours to sexually assault her body because he said he was motivated by this sexual element. So I just find it hard to believe that he would wait 2 hours before doing that if that was the motivation for actually killing her. I feel like he would want to do that right away. I just don't know if I believe that part of his story.
I mean, it says here, when he was caught lying on November 24th about moving Padgett's car, he abruptly stood up and said, "This is weird," and said he moved Padgett's car because he panicked. Police said he lured Padgett to his home and moved the car to move suspicion away from himself. He told police he spoke to Padgett the day she died about owing dangerous people some money. What? Okay. I think he did wait because it says here he panicked. So I think he killed her and then was like, what the fuck did I just do? I need to move her car in case the daycare realizes she's not coming back and then her car's here. So I think the whole point was not make it look like she was ever there.
To buy himself some more time.
Yeah. But I mean,
we do want to point out that this was her stepfather for 20 years.
Yeah, she was 13.
He basically raised her. This wasn't her mom just got remarried to some new dude as Jessica's older in life. No, this man was in her life since she was probably in 6th or 7th grade. And the investigators didn't say there was any evidence. So Jackie and I talked about this before recording. There's no confirmation that he had ever sexually abused Jessica in the past. But that's not to say that he didn't and she just never told anyone.
It's just kind of weird that in 20 years, you never thought to do anything to someone like that. And then one day, in the middle of the day, you just decide today's the day. And this weird feeling comes over you towards your stepdaughter. And you decide this is what I'm going to do. I think that's why Jenna and I are like, was he doing something to her or maybe another child before? Another person?
Feel like it's pretty fucking terrifying if he just snapped after 20 years.
Right.
But we just don't feel that you can go from nothing to necrophilia. I mean, get real.
How?
He must have been doing something and Jackie, we talked about, was he practicing with other corpses? Because this is a psychological mental illness. Necrophilia is a mental disorder. So we just find it hard to believe that this would be his first time.
Yeah.
He was 54 years old. They say most people who practice necrophilia are men between the ages of 20 and 50. Well, he was 54. And they just say it is rare, but it's mostly common among men. Women just don't do this.
Again, that whole thing, who would you rather encounter in the woods, a bear or a man? And it's everyone picks the bear because men are, I'm sorry, I don't mean to knock men out there, but I mean, they're more prone to weird shit like this, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just giving Ed Gein.
Yeah.
And Ed Gein did this to many dead bodies. He would dig them up from the graveyard. So I just feel he's taking a page out of the Ed Gein book, and I feel like if it was his first, I don't think he would have stopped with her.
Right.
I think he would have done it again.
So the psychological themes that researchers have found behind necrophilia and what drives it is need for control and dominance. They realize they're not going to get rejected by this person and there's no emotional demands of them, right? You don't have to have a relationship with them. Then there's the avoidance of intimacy. It's usually, again, driven by fear of rejection, social isolation, which this is all kind of weird for a married man. I mean, he's been married for over 20 something years.
Read about the social isolation and the social
Yeah.
awkwardness too. And this man ran a damn business. So
Yeah.
he wasn't socially, I mean, like, he ran a company and he had employees, and we just talked about him exchanging pleasantries with his employees. Like,
Yeah.
so
And you have to do some marketing, you know?
yeah. You definitely have to be, like, in his line of work, able to talk to people and not be like a hermit. So it's
And then the last one is fascination with death, the merging of aggression and sexuality, and then finally grief related, which I think that was Ed Gein's problem, right? It was after his mother died.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
It was
like
not- yeah.
pathological grief, inability to let go
Yes.
of a deceased loved one.
Yes.
And it's important to remember this is really rare.
Yeah. It does
but
happen.
It does happen.
And I think that's why this made national news, and the family, it's like they haven't suffered enough. They had to learn about this too. Her poor husband.
So, yeah,
So-
just a little sideshow on the psychology behind it because, yeah, just so messed up.
Mm-hmm. So after the details of the case came out, investigators, they actually briefly considered whether Gregory Graff could be something more like a serial killer, because
I mean, that
was
would
just
be my
so
thought
fucked
too.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately, there was no evidence to support that. Experts who study serial and sexually motivated killers agreed. They say crimes like this usually involve strangers, not family members, like serial killings and stuff. But because targeting someone close to you immediately puts suspicion on you. So experts immediately were like, no, he's definitely not a serial killer. He's just a freak. So they explained that while Graff's actions were extremely disturbing, it doesn't fit the typical pattern of someone carrying out multiple killings. Instead, it points more towards a long-standing, deeply hidden obsession. Experts believe that if Graff did have these kinds of fantasies, these sexual fantasies and obsession over Jessica, that may have been building, actually, Jackie, internally for years. Like,
he was fighting it.
Something with what you read about his quotes, something triggered him to act on these fantasies in that split second. He just snapped. And all these years, decades worth of sexual fantasies over Jessica, he suppressed them for so long that when he made the decision to act on it, it just all came out. And one of the most chilling parts, based on the evidence found at the crime scene, was he may not have expected to get caught at all.
Oh, yeah.
Of course he didn't. I mean, he thought he was being sneaky. I don't know. But he buried her in the backyard.
Yeah.
So I don't like. I just always thought that was kind of strange. Why would you not drive the body out? Like we said about Jamie Sylvanik, like, why wouldn't you drive the body out to the middle of the state where there's nothing? Or a river. I don't know. Just the backyard just seems a little
too obvious.
Strange to me. Yeah, I don't know why he did that. But after his arrest, Gregory Graff was charged with multiple serious offenses, including criminal homicide, abuse of a corpse, and related charges tied to what investigators had uncovered. But his case never went to trial because in 2017, Graff entered a guilty plea. Because, like we said, he confessed. He confessed to the murder of Jessica Padgett. By pleading guilty, he avoided the full trial. It also meant Jessica's family did not have to sit through every single detail. Thank God. Like,
can you imagine if they had to play that video? I I'm sorry.
You know they would've.
If I were on the jury, I would probably take out a lawsuit against the frickin' court for exposing me to that. I would not want to watch that for $10 an hour or for $10 a day. You know what I mean?
You know they would have
Traumatizing.
played it. Yeah, that I'm so glad the family didn't have to sit through that. So in the end, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In addition to that, he received additional consecutive sentences for the other charges, ensuring he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Jessica Padgett walked out of work that day thinking she was running a simple errand, something she had probably done 100 times before. She had just gotten married, she had kids, a family, her dreams were coming true. Her whole life was ahead of her. In a matter of moments, everything was taken from her by a monster, by someone she should have been able to trust. This case is so disturbing because of who did this to her. And what, it forces you to realize that sometimes danger isn't out there. It's already inside the circle that you feel
Yeah.
safest in. And it makes you really, really say, honestly, like, who does that?
Right. I was thinking of Richard Greased when we were going through this case. And remember, Richard, he kind of just snapped as he was eating lunch that day with his family. But I was thinking the biggest difference here is he was driven by thinking that he was helping his family escape
And
demons or whatnot. And that's the sign. Yeah, and the voices. And like that's a sign of true psychosis. Whereas this is like you just couldn't help yourself anymore. You
Yeah, he was
literally lost control of your
internally.
urges
Yes.
and you killed her, and then you were like, shit. You then moved her car and then came back and assaulted her body. So you can't argue an insanity defense here because I was thinking like, why didn't his
No.
attorneys try to do that?
What
But
we've learned is it's the voices. If you're
yeah,
hearing voices and you
yeah,
snap like totally out of character, you are in a psychosis.
right.
But
This is like,
this was sexual urges that
yeah,
motivated his own self. Get real, Gregory. Pull yourself together. Like you're a 54-year-old married man. This is a girl that you raised,
yeah.
from a young age. Like what gives you the right to do this to her and take her away from her children and her new husband?
In closing, we'll just end with the words of Micah, the
Mhm.
husband of Jessica Padgett, who unfortunately he didn't get to spend much time with her as a married couple, but I'm sure, they had their dating history and those years behind them. But here's a statement from him on how this has impacted him and the
Mhm.
community. Let's take a listen.
Just trying to get through it together. There's no one person that took a hit on this. We all did. The entire community did. So the only thing we can do is help each other, pick each other up, and just try to keep on moving forward. I mean, you just have to just read about it a little bit, and you see it impacted not just a family, but an entire community. Even not even Northampton, not even Whitehall, but just out of state, just everything, everywhere, and everybody. It's just everyone that she ever talked to, or ever touched, or ever had contact with. That she was a beautiful person.
Michael Padgett will always remember Jessica as the love of his life.
She was my best friend. She was the mother of my children. She was my wife. She's the only girl I ever loved. It's one of those. It's the most wonderful person you'd ever meet. For the children. It's hard sometimes because as a parent you don't want your children to be sad and upset, but in the other chance you want them to remember. So it's just every now and then you just sit back and you talk and you remember and you tell stories and just everything, pictures, and I have my daughter's about her size, so now she's wearing her clothing. You know what I mean? So every day I get to watch her down the steps wearing a t-shirt or a sweatshirt that I used to see her wear every single day, or a pair of pants and stuff. And it is nice. It really is. It's nice seeing that. Every now and then it's like, hey, I remember her wearing that. Those are some of the good positive things that I get to experience every day at least.
Graff was convicted of first-degree murder and of sexually abusing Jessica Padgett's corpse.
What would you say to Mr. Graff?
Nothing. Not a single word.
And that was from LehighValleyLive.com. I, oh,
That really made me choked up to hear him talking about the daughter
yeah.
wearing Jessica's clothes and how it gave him peace to see her again through that. That is absolutely heartbreaking.
I know. And then I think of my kids whenever my husband has to travel for work, they get so upset that he's not here. And I can't imagine what those conversations are like with children when their parent is so tragically taken from them. And oh, it's got to be so heart-wrenching to have those conversations, right? Even though they
Yeah.
need to be had. But oh, that really got me. And it
I'm
was
glad
their
he's
step-grandfather that did this to them.
yeah. I'm grateful that children have Micah, and
Yeah.
it seems like he has a really good support system,
Yeah.
and he seems like a strong man, and he's getting through it and living the best way he can for all the kids. So, what a good man.
Yeah. Well, our heart goes out to the family, and I hope that they have been able to find whatever comfort they can find in such a difficult situation. And I think it speaks volumes that Micah has nothing to say. Nothing to say to Gregory. I mean,
I
there is
think-
nothing to say. You don't even...
That says everything you need right there.
Yeah. All right. Until next
Thank
time,
you
guys.
all for listening.
We will see you next time.